dating has really evolved.
Yeah.
And I think it can be helpful for anybody, no matter what generation you're from,
Right.
to kind of understand what's going on in the dating world these days,
Absolutely.
because times have definitely changed.
For sure.
All right, so let's just jump right in with this first term that I keep hearing everywhere.
Okay.
Situationship.
Yeah.
What is a situationship?
Well, yeah, a situationship, it's kind of like that in-between space where
Right.
you're more than friends, but you're not quite in a defined relationship.
Okay.
And our source even quotes somebody as saying, I don't know what we are. We hang out, we text all the time, but we're not officially dating.
Yeah, it's so confusing.
It is. It's like this gray area of romance.
It is. It really is. And it almost seems like people are afraid to put a label on things these days.
I think there is a definite trend towards avoiding labels
Oh.
and shying away from those traditional relationship structures.
Yeah.
It could be for a number of reasons.
Yeah, like what?
Maybe it's a fear of commitment, maybe it's a desire to keep their options open,
Yeah.
or maybe it's just a way of testing the waters before diving into something more serious.
That makes sense. So it's kind of like this tightrope walk between friends with benefits and an actual relationship.
Yeah, you could say that. But the tricky part is that it can lead to a lot of misunderstandings and hurt feelings.
Oh, for sure, if those expectations aren't clearly communicated.
Exactly. Because even though there's no official label, doesn't mean there aren't feelings involved.
Right.
And if one person is expecting more than the other, that's when things can get messy.
Yeah, definitely. So communication is key, even if it's not a quote-unquote defined relationship.
Absolutely. Always.
Okay, so we've talked about situationships, but what about something even more confusing and kind of heartbreaking? Ghosting.
Yeah, ghosting. That's a tough one.
This is like the ultimate form of rejection, where somebody you've been seeing just vanishes into thin air.
Right? It's like they just disappear without a trace.
Yeah, our source describes it as this just gut-wrenching experience where you're left wondering what went wrong.
Yeah, and it can really mess with your head.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you're left with no explanation, no closure. It's like they were never even there.
And they even share this story about somebody who went on 3 amazing dates and then poof, the guy just disappeared.
It's so cruel. And unfortunately, it's become all too common in the digital age.
Right, because it's so easy to just block somebody or ignore their texts.
Exactly. Technology has made it easier to avoid those difficult conversations.
Yeah, it's almost like we're losing the art of direct communication
Right.
because it's so much easier to just ghost someone.
It's a sad reality.
It is. It really is. So speaking of avoiding things, let's talk about breadcrumbing.
Ooh, breadcrumbing. This one's a classic.
So this is where somebody gives you just enough attention to keep you interested.
Right. Just little bits and pieces here and there.
But they never actually commit to anything.
It's like they're leading you on, but never giving you the full loaf of bread.
Yeah, it's like they're throwing you these little breadcrumbs of attention
Right.
just to keep you on the hook.
Exactly.
And our source gives this perfect example.
Okay.
She texts me just enough to keep me interested, but she never actually makes plans.
It's so frustrating because you're constantly left wanting more.
Yeah, and you're always wondering, like, are they actually interested or are they just messing with me?
Right. And it can be hard to let go because those little breadcrumbs of attention can be addictive.
They can be.
It's like a little dopamine hit every time you get a text or
Yeah, it's like that anticipation, and then when it finally comes, it's like, oh.
Yeah.
But then it goes away again.
And then you're waiting for the next crumb.
Exactly. So it's like a vicious cycle.
It is. It can be really tough to break free from.
It really can.
Yeah.
Now, if you thought breadcrumbing was bad, well, benching takes things to a whole new level of frustrating.
Oh, benching. This one's a real blow to the ego.
Yeah, you could say that. So imagine you're on a sports team,
Okay.
but you're always stuck on the bench waiting for your chance to play.
Right.
That's basically what benching is in the dating world.
Like being the backup option.
Yeah, you're not their first choice,
Hmm.
but they'll keep you around just in case.
Exactly.
According to our source, benching is when somebody keeps you as a backup option,
Mm-hmm.
only texting or calling when they're bored or they have nothing better to do.
It's like they're keeping you on the sidelines just in case their other plans fall through.
Yeah, and it can be really hurtful.
Oh, absolutely. Because it
Right.
makes you feel like you're not good enough.
Right, like you're not worthy of their full attention.
Exactly.
So what kind of person benches someone like that?
Well, it often stems from insecurity or a need for validation.
Okay.
They might be afraid of being alone,
Right.
or they might just crave that constant attention.
So they need to have like a roster of potential partners just waiting in the wings,
Yeah, it's like they're trying to collect as many options as possible.
just in case.
Just in case.
Wow. So it's really more about them and their issues than the person being benched.
It really is. And it's important to remember that.
It is.
Because it's easy to internalize that rejection and start to blame yourself.
Yeah.
But it's not your fault.
Right.
It's their issue that they need to work through.
Yeah, absolutely. So knowledge is power in this case, right?
Definitely.
If you can recognize the signs of being benched,
Mm-hmm.
then you can choose to step off the sidelines and find somebody who truly values you.
Exactly. You deserve to be someone's first choice.
Yes, you do.
Yeah,
Not their backup plan.
absolutely.
All right, so we've talked about situationships, ghosting, breadcrumbing, and benching.
Wow, that's a lot of dating drama.
It is. It's exhausting just thinking about
I
it.
know, right?
But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about something that seems to be influenced by the actual seasons. Have you ever noticed how as the weather gets colder, everybody suddenly seems to be craving a relationship?
Yeah, you're talking about cuffing season, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I've definitely noticed that trend.
It's like a classic cuffing season move.
Hmm.
This urge to couple up as the days get shorter and the nights get colder.
It's like a primal instinct to seek warmth and comfort during the winter months.
That's a good point. Like hibernation, but for humans.
Right.
So what do you think is behind this cuffing season phenomenon?
Well, I think there are a few factors at play.
Okay.
First of all, there's the biological aspect.
Okay.
When it's cold outside, we naturally want to cuddle up with somebody.
To stay warm.
Exactly. It's like a built-in survival mechanism.
Right.
And then there's the social aspect.
Okay.
The holidays are coming up and
Mhm.
nobody wants to show up to those family gatherings alone.
That's true. It's like the pressure to be coupled up intensifies during the holiday.
It definitely does.
Oh.
But let's not forget about all those romantic holiday movies. Oh, yeah, they definitely set the mood for cuffing season.
It's like a cultural phenomenon that combines our primal instincts with societal pressures
Right.
and a healthy dose of media influence.
And speaking of media, we can't forget about the role social media plays in all of this.
Oh, social media has definitely changed the dating game.
It has. Which brings us to our next term, thirst traps.
Ooh, thirst traps.
So our source describes these as those strategically posed selfies
Mhm.
designed to attract attention
Right.
and thirst.
It's all about showcasing your best assets.
Yeah. And they even mentioned somebody saying, "Did you see Alex's new selfie?" That's definitely a thirst trap to get their ex's attention.
It's like the modern day equivalent of peacocking.
Yeah, showing off your feathers.
That's exactly.
So what's the psychology behind thirst traps?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. There's
Sure.
definitely an element of seeking validation, especially in the age of social media where self-worth can be measured in likes and comments.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so easy to get caught up in that.
Well, it is. It's like a constant competition for attention.
It is.
That's
And I think there's also an element of just wanting to feel attractive and desired.
for sure. It's a natural human desire.
It is. So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right. It depends on the intention behind it.
Yeah, like if you're just trying to boost your own ego
Mm-hmm.
versus genuinely wanting to connect with somebody,
Exactly.
it's a fine line.
It is.
So we've talked about ghosting, which is like the sudden disappearance.
Right.
But what about a more subtle form of rejection? The slow fade.
Ah, the slow fade. This one's a slow burn.
It is. Our source describes it as a gradual withdrawal of communication.
Like they're slowly turning down the volume on your interactions.
Exactly. It's like somebody slowly fading out of your life.
And it can be just as confusing and hurtful as ghosting.
Yeah, because you're not sure if they're just busy
Mm-hmm.
or if they're actually losing interest.
Right.
It's that uncertainty that really gets to you.
It does. And it can make you question everything.
Yeah, like what did I do wrong? Why
Right.
are they pulling away?
It's a mind game.
It is. It
Yeah.
really is. So why do you think people choose the slow fade?
Well, I think it's often a way of avoiding confrontation.
Right?
They might be afraid of hurting your feelings,
Oh.
or they might just not want to have that awkward conversation.
So it's easier to just slowly disappear.
Yeah, but it's not the kindest way to end things.
No, it's definitely not.
Mm,
It lacks clarity and respect.
exactly.
All right, well, we've covered a lot of ground already,
We have?
but there's still more to explore in this fascinating world of Gen Z dating.
There is.
We've got catfishing orbiting
Mm-hmm.
and that all-important DTR conversation.
Real juicy topics.
Juicy is right. But we'll dive into those after a quick break, so stay tuned.
Sound good.
Welcome back, deep divers. Let's keep unraveling these Gen Z dating terms. We left off talking about the slow fade and how frustrating that can be.
It is. It's like being left in limbo.
Totally.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about something that sounds straight out of a true crime documentary. Catfishing.
Ooh, catfishing.
Yeah.
That's a whole other level of deception.
It is. Our source shares this wild story about someone who thought they were falling for this like cute guy from LA,
Okay.
only to discover that it was all a complete fabrication, like a total fake profile.
It's crazy how people can create these elaborate online personas.
It is.
Yeah.
Like, what motivates someone to do that?
I think it can stem from a variety of reasons.
Like what?
Well, sometimes it's about insecurity.
Okay.
You know, they might feel inadequate in their real life.
Right.
So they create this idealized version of themselves online.
To kind of mask their true identity.
Exactly. And then sometimes it's about seeking attention or validation.
Okay.
They might crave that feeling of being desired,
Right.
even if it's based on a lie.
So it's almost like they're living a double life.
In a way, yeah. And then there are cases where it can be more malicious.
Like what?
Like they might be trying to scam someone or exploit them emotionally.
Wow, that's scary. So how can we protect ourselves from these digital con artists?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think the key is to be cautious and trust your instincts. If something feels off or too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Be wary of profiles with very few photos, or if they're always making excuses to avoid meeting in person.
Okay, so basically do your research.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Right, like verify their identity.
Yes. If you have any doubts at all, it's better to err on the side of caution.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to a term that's a little less sinister, but still super perplexing.
Orbiting.
Orbiting.
Yeah,
This one's a head-scratcher.
it is. Our source describes it as this phenomenon where someone ghosts you,
Okay.
but then continues to watch all your Instagram stories and like your posts.
It's like they're lurking in the digital shadows.
They are. It's like they want to keep tabs on you without actually interacting with you.
Right.
So confusing.
It is. It's like they're sending mixed signals.
Totally. Like, are they interested or not?
It's hard to say. I think it depends on the individual and their motivations.
Like, what are some possible reasons why someone would orbit? Well, sometimes it's a way of keeping their options open.
Okay.
They might not be ready for a relationship,
Right.
but they still want to stay on your radar.
Just in case.
Exactly. And then sometimes it's about ego.
Okay.
They might enjoy knowing that you're still paying attention to them.
Even though they're not giving you the same attention in return.
Right. It's like a power play.
It can definitely feel that way.
And then sometimes it's just plain old curiosity.
Okay.
They might be genuinely interested in what you're up to.
Even though they ghosted you.
It doesn't make much sense.
It really doesn't. But it happens.
It does, and it can be incredibly frustrating for the person being orbited.
Yeah, because you're left wondering what their intentions are.
Exactly.
And it can prevent you from moving on.
For sure. It's like a constant reminder of their presence.
But without any real substance?
It's a digital tease.
Okay, let's move on to a term that can make even the most confident dater feel a little nervous. DTR.
Ah, yes. DTR. The dreaded define the relationship talk.
Our source describes it as that crucial conversation where you and your partner finally sit down
Okay.
and hash out what you are to each other.
It's about setting clear expectations.
Exactly. It's like the moment of truth.
It can be. And it often takes a lot of courage to initiate that conversation.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Because you're putting yourself out there
Or
and
being-
risking rejection.
Yeah, but it's also an opportunity to build a stronger foundation for the relationship.
That's true.
Yeah.
So how do you know when it's the right time to have this DTR conversation?
That's a good question.
Hmm.
I think it depends on the individuals involved
Okay.
and the pace of the relationship.
But generally speaking.
Generally speaking, if you've been seeing someone regularly for a while and you're starting to develop feelings,
Yeah.
it's probably a good idea to have a conversation about where things are headed.
To make sure you're both on the same page.
Exactly. Because assumptions can be dangerous.
They can lead to misunderstandings and hurt feelings.
For sure. So it's always better to communicate openly and honestly.
Agreed. So any tips for navigating this potentially awkward conversation?
Well, first of all, choose the right time and place.
Okay.
Somewhere private where you can both feel comfortable.
Right.
And then be honest with yourself about what you want from the relationship.
Okay.
Were you looking for something casual or something more serious?
And be prepared to listen to their perspective.
Exactly. Even if it's not what you were hoping to hear.
It's a two-way street.
It is. The goal is to find a place of mutual understanding.
Great advice.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest takeaway here is that communication is key.
Absolutely. In any relationship.
Whether you're defining it or just starting to explore it,
Right.
it's important to be open and honest with each other.
And to respect each other's feelings.
Well said. All right, we're almost at the end of our deep dive into the wild world of Gen Z dating terms.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. But before we wrap up, let's recap some of the key terms we've covered.
Okay.
Okay, so we've talked about all these crazy dating terms, but there's one that seems to be like the ultimate relationship hurdle.
Yeah, the DTR.
The DTR, the define the relationship talk, everybody's favorite.
Right.
Right.
Hmm.
So, like when you're casually dating,
Mm-hmm.
you know you're having fun,
Yeah.
but then you start to develop feelings
Okay.
and things get a little more serious.
Yeah.
And then you're like, uh-oh,
It's DTR time.
it's CTR time.
Uh,
Our source actually quotes somebody saying, we've been seeing each other for months.
yeah.
I think it's time to have the DTR talk.
Okay, that's usually the tipping point.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like that moment where things either go to the next level
Right.
or they fizzle out.
Exactly.
So how do you know when it's the right time to have this conversation?
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
I think it really depends on the individuals involved
Right,
and the pace of the relationship. There's no magic formula.
right.
But generally speaking, if you've been seeing someone regularly for a while and you're starting to wonder, what are we?
Yeah.
That's probably a good sign that it's time to have the talk.
It's like when you're constantly overthinking things.
Exactly.
Yeah, you just need some clarity.
Yes. You need to know where you stand.
Exactly. So any tips for actually navigating this DTR conversation?
Oh, boy. Well, first of all, I would say be prepared.
Okay.
Like, really think about what you want
Yeah.
before you have the conversation.
What are your expectations?
Exactly. What are your deal breakers?
Okay.
And be honest with yourself about whether this person is truly meeting your needs.
Yeah, that's important.
It is.
Hey.
Because it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of a new relationship
Right.
and ignore those red flags.
Yeah.
So take some time to reflect
Ah.
before you dive into that DTR talk.
All right, so you've done some soul searching.
Mhm.
You're ready to have the talk.
Okay.
What next?
We'll choose the right time and place.
Okay.
Don't just spring it on them, right?
Out of the blue.
Yeah. Pick a time when you can both relax
Okay.
and have an open and honest conversation.
Somewhere private?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely somewhere private.
Okay, so you're having the talk. Any tips for like the actual communication part?
Well, first and foremost, be honest,
It's okay.
but also be kind.
Right.
You don't want to attack them
Well-
or make them feel defensive.
Okay.
Just express your feelings in a clear and calm way.
So like use I statements.
Yeah, that's a good technique.
Like I feel.
Exactly,
And
because that can make them feel blame. And
Yeah.
then listen to their perspective.
Oh,
Really listen.
Yeah.
Even if it's not what you want to hear,
that's hard.
it can be. But it's important
Right.
because it shows that you respect them
Yeah.
and that you value their feelings.
Okay, good advice.
Yeah.
And remember that the DTR conversation is not a one-time thing.
Right.
It's an ongoing process.
Exactly. Relationships are constantly evolving.
Yes.
So it's important to keep those lines of communication open
Right.
and to check in with each other regularly.
Yeah, that's so important. Well, I think we've officially decoded the wild world of Gen Z dating.
I think we have.
From situationships to thirst traps.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. But I think the biggest takeaway here
Yeah.
is that no matter how much the dating landscape changes,
Mm-hmm.
the fundamental human need for connection remains the same.
That's beautifully said.
We all want to feel loved.
Right. And clear
accepted.
and understood.
Exactly.
Mm.
So, as you navigate the ups and downs of modern dating,
Yeah.
remember to stay true to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
communicate your needs,
Yes.
and never settle for anything less than respect.
Couldn't agree more.
Good. Well, a huge thank you to our expert for sharing your insights into the ever-changing world of modern dating.
It's been a pleasure.
And to our amazing listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Gen Z dating terms. Remember, the dating world is constantly evolving. So stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay true to yourself. We'll catch you next time.